Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's been a minute. It's been like a week and a half since we've been live about the astro reports. And I think we're definitely going to be coming for full moons, new moons. We're here now because we have a full moon tomorrow. And this is going to be an awesome one. It's going to be in Aries in gene key 17. Bella's going to pull up the chart and we'll speak a little bit about it so you can be prepared.
Yay. So tomorrow we are in a third line day. So a lot of dynamism, a lot of solar plexus energy, fire energy, which of course also goes together with the theme of fire, where we have not only the moon in Aries, we also have the North Node in Chiron here. And then we have two important placements in Libra on the other side, so on this axis, the first sign and the seventh sign. So in Libra, we have the sun opposing the moon and the earth, and then we have Mars here in 32. So strong energy in this axis, and so that it's your own empowerment, that impulse in Aries, the fire to start something, and at the same time we have this balancing on the other side, which is in Libra, where it's about partnership. It's about you and the other. The fact that we have the South Node here and the North Node in Aries, we can see that we still have that emphasis towards individuality, your own fire. And we have both Mars and Mercury that are now direct. So some of those closer planets that are allowing us to start to move, even if you can see still a lot of retrogrades that are kind of not allowing us maybe in the big scheme of things to move forward, but in the everyday we can start to feel some movement with those two planets going direct. Ashley, what stands out for you in this chart?
Yeah, well, in terms of the sun being in gate 18, which we call it the perceiver, we're going to be experiencing that spectrum where we have judgment to perfection through the pathway of integrity. So because the 18 is programming partner to the 17, and whenever we have that moon, the full moon, it's in the programming partner, the 17. The shadow frequency of the 17 is opinion. The shadow frequency of the 18 is judgment. And so how are we going to shift ourselves into the higher frequencies? It's like when you find yourself in judgment, having a fixed opinion, you're going to want to look at different perspectives and start to understand maybe where is somebody else coming from? What is another perspective? Instead of feeling like there's only one way to go, how can you widen it to see what are some other possibilities? And this can be in relationships, particularly because this is where we're hanging out is in Libra, but we're needing to bring in a higher perspective to what's currently happening in your life or kind of stirring up. We've got Mars in 32. So it's going to be stirring up some stuff because Mars is like this energy of action, also impulsivity, but we need to see, let's not cut things out of our life like impulsively. Let's look at different perspectives and see what is another solution here. We don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. We don't need to be having emotional actions to things. We can sit and be like, what is best for all involved? And with the nodal environment, like Bella said, being in the 42 and the 32, we are here to look at what is it that we can uproot? What doesn't need to be here anymore? What do we need to weed out of our life? Because we want to make space for more. So to see what is taking our time. Where should we be putting our time? What's the priority? How can we be more efficient? Time is all we got. And so how can we be wise with our time?
Yeah, and here in this chart, it's not something that we can see because this chart is showing us the North Node and it's not showing us what's on the other side in the South Node. But what you actually have here is a conjunction between Mars and the South Node. And if you are with us in Business by Design and in that journey, we are going to speak next week about the South Node and also planets conjuncting the South Node and how that is creating an emphasis on that. So Mars is asking us, how are you going to act, knowing that the South Node is this guardian archetype, knowing that there are things that probably we don't need to preserve, that need to go away so that we don't continue repeating the same quote unquote failures. So there is an emphasis. How are you acting in the world to become that high frequency guardian instead of maybe trying to balance things that are actually not leading to anything good? So an emphasis on being more mature in in our actions with that Mars there, because Mars can be immature sometimes and a bit hot in his way of doing it. He doesn't really like to be in Libra, because there he's asked to weigh things before he acts. So it's a little bit uncomfortable with Chiron here on the other side in Aries, the North Node, and then Mars being here where he doesn't feel happy. Everybody else is home in Aries, and he gets to be on the other side of the world and have to weigh things. And then he's there with the South Node that kind of show him what he shouldn't do. So I feel like some Mars frustration.
Poor Mars.
Yeah. But that's again about maturity. I'm not super happy at this place. What's the best I can do here? And what is maybe a new seed or a new impulse that can come from this situation?
Mars is also like with that impulsivity and the schooling it's probably getting in Libra. And then with the South Node, you're having to ask yourself, what is worth preserving? What am I preserving? Because if you're being so impulsive, you're just cutting, doing, adding, then you're going to ask yourself, is all the seeds I planted, like, what's the plan for this garden? Did I want to plant all these seeds, or what's the main thing? Like, if we are making sure that we can make ratatouille, you better make sure that you have like the components of that, the eggplant and the peppers and the whatever goes in, like zucchini. Why would you plant corn if your goal is to make ratatouille? You would not plant corn because you're not going to use it in ratatouille. So you just wasted some space. So ask yourself that, instead of just impulsively planting things or starting things or ripping things out. Like, what are you preserving? What are you bringing forward? You can't make your traditional ratatouille dish if you have a bunch of corn, and it's not going to work out.
Yeah, so here going over to the gene keys, we can move with that Mars, and we see that he's the EQ in the gene keys, and it's in the first line. So with that behavior that we're going to have with this full moon, there could be a possibility for self-sabotage or empowerment. So that's what you want to keep in mind. And there could be emotional reactions or responses, like Ashley said. And because we have a body graph that is going to be a reflector graph, because if we take out all the red, we're not looking at, that's not where the planets are in the sky right now. We just look at the black. We don't have any full channels. So it's going to be a reflector graph. We don't have the emotional center defined. There can be this clarity of emotion, even if it's a bit uncomfortable. What we do see very strongly in this chart is that we have a trinity of forgiveness, or a trinity of understanding. So vocation, SQ, and IQ. Two of them are Venus activations, and one is a Mars activation. In order for us probably to go towards that Aries new start, individual spark, we need to forgive some of the things from the past, whether that's our own behavior, whether that's our lineage, whether that's the imprints of our childhood, whether that's our own mind. It's a letting go of some of the things, or understand some of the things so that they make sense for us. The 4 is part of the collective circuitry in the logical circuitry. So it's understanding it, it's seeing the pattern, and deciding to go for something new, maybe a new insight. When we can come together with other people in relationship, in chemistry, and not fall into the self-sabotage or the emotional reaction, there can be important insights that actually come through the heart. And it's part of that middle pillar. So those kind of sudden understandings, insights of, oh yeah, so maybe the heart is actually understanding something during this full moon. And it can be, again, this kind of spark of something new that can start as you're making peace with what was before. And the last thing here is just looking at the all over cross. This is the cross of service. So it's both about zooming in and out and having that bigger perspective, understanding, and then grounding into the body, say the mountain or the earth, and also feeling the vitality, the life force within that body. Important anchoring with what's happening on the emotional plane and on the understanding plane, to feel the anchoring in the body, to feel the vitality, the life force. That's going to help us to have core stability through those quite powerful energies of the full moon.
Wow. Yeah,
I was just going to say, for you, there are some of those activations that you have, the 18, the 17, the 4.
The 4, the 58. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm definitely feeling all of these. And as you're speaking, as I'm listening to myself also channel some of this, it's for me too. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, time is an issue for me currently, but like there's a lot coming to me. And I'm like, oh, opportunity where there's not a lot of opportunities. Like, well, you can't take all the opportunities because then you don't have any time to do the things that you're already committed to. But it's like, you don't realize that in the impulsivity of like, oh yeah, this feels great. This feels right. This feels good. But then you're kind of overtaxing yourself. And that's the space I'm in now where I'm like, there's a lot happening. There's a lot of people to coordinate with. There's a lot of things that were planned beforehand, a lot of things that were planned impulsively, a lot of things and dynamics with your travels too. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I understood what I was preserving. What am I preserving? But now I have to trust whatever I committed to impulsively, and then know like it's all working out for the best and we're learning things through it. So being forgiving on myself and also forgiving on our situation, and also hoping that you're forgiving too. Not that it's anything's wrong. There's so many different perspectives that we can look at this from, and we aren't on the end of any of this stuff. But at the end, we have to look back and be like, what happened here? How could we do this better? Because everything's already set in motion. So right now, if anybody is in that situation where you're like kind of feeling the ramifications of your actions, keep moving through things. There is an ability to course correct where you can, but remember with the 42, it's also asking us to look back and to learn from what happened. And so that's what we're getting the possibility to do after the dust has settled and things start to calm down, because we can't get any clarity on an emotional wave. But at least we have the 4 to give us a little bit more understanding, and the 17 to give us a little bit more perspective, and the 18 to kind of see the things that could be corrected, and try to be forgiving and gracious and loving on yourself, even if it might be easy to see the things that are off and not right. Yeah.
What I see and what comes up for me when you speak again on this axis between Libra and Aries, and the North Node being there, and a lot of focus with this full moon on Aries, it's that, like you say, allowing yourself to be spontaneous and to go with that fire, with that spark. And then in relationship, it feels like the other part is to say, okay, if I got to do that, if I got to be spontaneous, then to also have kind of that reciprocity, then I have to let somebody else be spontaneous too. So that the Libra part is more of that reciprocity of saying, okay, I got to do this from my spark. You get to do this from your spark, so that there is some kind of balance, so that not just one person takes all the spark and the other person gets to do all the balancing. So how can we be fluid and open in that, so that we have some kind of, again, justice, which is what Libra says. There needs to be some kind of balance. So maybe there are going to be a lot of things that are a little bit unexpected that are happening, but how can you together balance and make sure that at the end of the day, everybody got to live a little bit of that, their fire, a little bit of their kind of seeding for something new.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the nodal environment is moving us out of Libra into Aries too. So it's important to be able to follow your spark, like Bella was saying. And then if you're in relationship, having the consideration, because you also have to know how to use your fire, to use the spark. You don't want to burn anyone and burn any bridges or burn any relationships or burn any things with the impulsive actions that could be taken. So that's what's going to be important now and during the full moon. So I wonder what is coming up for everyone, and maybe what the dilemma is and what is being asked of you during this full moon in the 17. How can you see it from a different perspective too?
Yay.
Yay. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.